I realized that I went off the page on the video, so I had to create another video so that you have all this information. So we're going to be going over two more reactions, and I'm going to show you why these reactions are going to be a little bit tricky. So these are called combustion reactions. We're going to be using C3H8, common name for C3H8. This is propane. So if you've ever had a propane barbecue, or if you have a propane tank for heating your house or your stove, this is what it looks like. And we burn any fuel, and it's going to require oxygen, O2. This is going to produce two simple compounds. One of them is going to be H2O, and the other one's going to be CO2. The reason why this is tricky is it's similar to another one that we had before, but you'll notice that oxygen occurs in two of the compounds on the right-hand side, which is going to make it a little bit more difficult to balance. So we're going to go through the steps, and we're going to list all of the elements. We have carbon, we have hydrogen, the third one is oxygen. On the right-hand side, of course, we will have the same elements: carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. So step one indicates for us to count these atoms by using the subscripts. How many carbons do we have on the left? We have 3. How many hydrogens? We have 8. And oxygens, we have 2. On the right-hand side, we have 1 carbon, 2 hydrogens, and now count the oxygens. The oxygen is going to be 3. So now we have to find their common multiples. Let's start with the carbon. What's going to be the common multiple between the 3 and the 1? It's going to be 3. So whatever has the carbon, I have to multiply by a 3. Now, this 3 is going to be multiplied by the carbon, but it's also going to be multiplied by the oxygen as well. And now, how many oxygens is this going to give us total on the right-hand side? And remember, we have 2 different molecules that we're taking a look at. We have 3 times 2 is 6, plus 1 is now 7. So we balance the carbons. Now we're going to balance the hydrogens. What's going to be the common multiple between 2 and 8? It's going to be 4. So I'm going to put this as the coefficient over here. The 4 gets multiplied by the 2 for the hydrogens, giving me 8. But it's also multiplied by the oxygens. Now let's see how many oxygens that I have total in both molecules. 3 times 2 is 6. 4 times 1 is 4. 4 plus 6 gives me 10. What's going to be the balancing factor between 2 and 10? What's the common multiple? It's going to be 5. So whatever has the oxygen, I have to multiply it by 5. That's going to give me my 10. And that should balance everything. We're going to go ahead and double check real quick. I have 3 carbons, as I have 3 carbons over here. I have 8 hydrogens, as I have 8. And I have 10 oxygens. 4 times 1 is 4. 3 times 2 is 6. 4 plus 6 is 10. Next one is going to be a little bit more tricky, and we're going to walk through this one step by step because it's going to actually have us go through everything almost twice. This is going to be the burning of C8H18, which is also called octane. This is the fuel that's in your car. Similar process, we're going to be burning this in oxygen. and we're going to get the same products, H2O and CO2. So we're going to start by listing the elements that we have, which are the same, C, H, and O, C, H, and O. How many carbons do I have on the left? I've got 8. We're just looking at the subscripts again. How many H's do I have? 18. How many O's? I got 2. How many carbons on the right? 1. How many hydrogens? 2. How many oxygens? Tricky again because I have oxygen in 2 of the molecules, and if you add the 2 plus the 1, I have 3. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to be trying to reconcile the 1 and the 8. What's the common multiple between 1 and 8? And it's going to be 8. So whatever has the carbon, I have to multiply it by 8. But if you remember, I'm multiplying the carbon by 8, but also the oxygen by 8, but it's O, not just O, it's O2. So this gives me 8 times 2, which is 16, plus the 1 over here. That makes the oxygens to have a total now of 17. Not balanced yet, but at least I balanced my carbons. Let's go to the hydrogens. What's going to be the common multiple between 18 and 2? It's going to be, the lowest multiple is going to be 18. So I have to multiply the 2 by a 9. Okay, and what has the H? It's the H2O. So 2 times 9 is going to give me 18, and that 9 is going to go into there for the coefficient. So that gives me 2 times 9, or 9 times 2 H's, which gives me 18. But it also gives me 9 times 1, which is 9. What's the total number of oxygens that I have now? 9 times 1 is 9. 8 times 2 is 16. 9 plus 16 is 25. And this is where it gets a little bit tricky because now take a look at our last step. In the previous problem, we had 10 over here and we had 2 over here. We just had to multiply it by 5 to balance. But I can't just multiply this by a single number over here to balance the 25 over here. I can multiply it by 25 halves, but that is not possible because I can't have a portion, I can't have 25 halves of a molecule. So I have to go back to the original way of doing this and say, what's the common number between 2 and 25? Lowest common multiple is going to be 50. What am I have to multiply the 2 by? It's going to be a 25 to give me 50. So that's the number right there. That gives me the 25. Wait a minute, now I have to go back here and I have to double all my oxygens. But if you notice, oxygen is found in both of these. So what I'm going to have to do is I am going to have to double the oxygens, and by doubling the number of oxygens, I have to double each of those numbers as well. So I'm going to have to double these guys, and I'm going to have to double these guys. If I'm doubling the oxygens, everything is going to get doubled on the right-hand side. This is going to give me 16 carbons. This is going to give me 36 hydrogens, and this will give me 50 oxygens. So now let's see if we are balanced. We've got the 50 here, but now we've made this into 36. How do I make this into 36? I'm going to have to multiply it by 2. So when I put the 2 up here, it not only multiplies the 2 by the 18 to give me my 36, but it multiplies the C by 2, which was previously 8. 8 times 2 gives me 16. And now I can see all three of these are balanced. This is by far one of the hardest types of things to balance. And we'll have more practice on this on our handouts.